Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling when you're just faced with the sheer immensity of the English language?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like this huge ocean of words and phrases, and whether you're actively, swimming in it as a learner or just trying to navigate it better every day, it can feel a little daunting, right?
It really can. And it's fascinating because even those of us who've been speaking English our whole lives, we still hit moments where we think, I didn't know you could say it that way, or, stumble upon some new nuance.
Right.
The language is always sort of shifting and revealing new depths.
Exactly. And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive today. We've plunged into a really valuable resource. It's a masterclass by Jay Forrest English on YouTube. And our mission really is to pull out the most practical, everyday English insights from it, just for you.
Yeah, think of it like a personalized toolkit for boosting your confidence.
Yeah.
We're not just, reading off vocabulary lists. We're looking for the grammar stuff underneath, like related to prepositions, and pointing out those common mistakes that can trip you up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also sharing pronunciation tips you can use right away to sound, more natural.
Absolutely. This masterclass really covers a fantastic range, from demystifying those sometimes confusing phrasal verbs.
Yeah, those are tricky.
To helping you paint more vivid pictures with descriptive adjectives, getting a solid grip on prepositions, and even tackling those sneaky silent letters that make English spelling so, unique.
Unique is one word for it.
It's a really comprehensive exploration, but we're breaking it down into manageable, digestible pieces for you, ready to explore.
Definitely. What strikes me as particularly useful about this source is its focus on practical application. It's not just theoretical rules. It's about giving you language you can actually start using in your conversations today.
Okay, let's dive into those incredibly useful phrasal verbs first. Think about how often we talk about simple, routine actions.
All the time.
The masterclass organizes some really common ones. We're talking about verbs like stand up, sit down, pick up, put down, take out, put in, put on, and take off. These feel like the absolute foundation, don't they?
They really are foundational. And the key to understanding phrasal verbs, I think, often lies in recognizing how that little word, the preposition or particle, changes the main verb's meaning.
Yeah.
It's like adding a specific flavor to a general action,
That's a great way to put it. And the video really focuses on phrasal verbs with fill, which is just so versatile. You can fill up your water bottle, your gas tank, or a vase.
Right.
You fill out a form. Too many cars can fill up your closet. You fill in missing information, or even fill in for someone at work. It's fascinating how that one core verb takes on slightly different shades of meaning depending on what comes after it.
What's interesting about fill in these examples is how it often relates to reaching a capacity or completing something. Whether it's physically filling a container or completing the required bits of a document, there's this sense of making something whole or complete.
Then we get into a really handy collection of other phrasal verbs. Things like pull off, meaning to successfully achieve something difficult. Wow, we actually pulled it off.
That's a useful one.
Then take off, meaning to depart. Put off is to delay something. And turn around, meaning to improve or change direction, like turning a situation around.
These are exactly the kinds of phrases that native speakers use constantly, often without even thinking about it.
Right.
So for learners, getting these down can make your English sound much more natural and fluent.
Exactly. We also encounter more, let's say, colorful ones like blurt out, to suddenly say something without thinking.
Whoops.
Yeah. Then comb through, which suggests a really thorough search, which contrasts nicely with skim through for just a quick overview. And gloss over when you intentionally avoid discussing something in detail.
That distinction between comb through and skim through is great. It really shows how phrasal verbs can give you a very precise way to describe the intensity of an action.
Yeah.
It's more nuanced than just saying read carefully or read quickly.
And then we have the call phrasal verbs. Call off to cancel something.
Like a meeting.
Right. Then call someone out, which is to publicly criticize or confront someone.
Ooh, bit confrontational.
Yeah. And call out to someone, which just means to shout to get their attention. Plus the conversational ones like jump in to enter a discussion, and the slightly less polite butt in to interrupt rudely.
Notice how many of those call ones relate to communication, but each has a very different intent and style.
That's true.
It just shows the versatility you get from combining one verb with different little words.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Describing common items. The masterclass provides some excellent contrasting adjectives, especially for food. Think about chicken that's tender versus tough,
Big difference.
or bread that's fresh versus stale, a steak that's juicy versus dry.
These aren't just about stating a quality. They really evoke a sensory experience, don't they? When you say tender chicken, you're almost suggesting how easily it cuts or how it feels in your mouth.
Totally. We also have flaky versus mushy for fish, crisp versus limp for vegetables.
Nobody wants limp vegetables.
No. Buttery versus oily for pastry, flavorful versus bland for pizza, firm versus wilted for lettuce.
Or golden versus burned for fries, a crucial distinction.
Absolutely crucial. And hearty versus watery for soup. It's like having a more descriptive menu in your brain.
And thinking about them in pairs like that really helps cement the meaning of each word, I find. You understand tender better when you contrast it with tough and, vice versa.
Yeah, that makes sense. The video also throws in a really wide array of common nouns grouped together in a way that's almost like a linguistic scavenger hunt.
Huh. I like that.
So we're talking animals like alligator and crocodile, surprisingly distinct reptiles, right?
They are. People mix them up all the time.
Then toad and frog. And even pairs you might mix up when cooking, like jam and jelly or cilantro and parsley.
Oh yeah, cilantro and parsley look so similar.
Totally. Or yam and sweet potato, butter and margarine.
This kind of seemingly random grouping can actually be quite effective for learning because it forces your brain to make connections and, distinctions between different categories of things.
Exactly. We get fruits like cherries and cranberries, sea creatures like shrimp and prawn, another pair that often causes confusion.
Is there even a difference? I'm never sure.
Apparently there is. And then the big cats, cheetah and leopard, plus vegetables like cucumber and zucchini, geographical terms like shore and beach, everyday toiletries like shampoo and conditioner, kitchen appliances like blender and food processor.
Recognizing these, subtle differences in vocabulary allows for much clearer and more precise communication. Knowing the specific term avoids any ambiguity.
And the list keeps going. Musical instruments, guitar and banjo, makeup, lipstick and chapstick, even mythical creatures, Pegasus and unicorn make an appearance.
Got to know your mythical creatures.
Apparently. Then drinks latte and cappuccino, cooking gear, roasting pan and baking sheet, insects, moths and butterfly, dairy, sour cream and yogurt, more fruits, peach and nectarine, tech, gadgets, monitor and screen, clothing, cardigan and sweater, spices, ginger and turmeric, flying pests, wasp and bee.
Careful with those.
Marine mammals, seal and sea lion, South American natives, llama and alpaca, and those bushy-tailed critters, chipmunk and squirrel. It's quite the collection, isn't it?
It really emphasizes the incredible breadth of the English lexicon.
Yeah.
Even in seemingly simple categories, there's just a wealth of specific vocabulary waiting to be learned.
Then we move on to common nouns for places and objects you encounter in your day-to-day life. A revolving door, a mural, a parking meter, a semi-truck.
Or lorry in British English.
Good point. A gate, a statue, a patio, a crosswalk.
Zebra crossing.
Right, a fence, a parking lot, an ATV, a foosball table, a speed bump, an aisle in a shop, a carving, a mask, a coffee roaster, a saddle, a shark again, a play structure, a mailbox, a pylon or cone, a bike lane, a sidewalk or pavement, a bike rack, and just the plain old street.
This is really the vocabulary that helps us navigate the physical world around us. Being able to accurately name these things is essential for giving directions, describing your surroundings, and just generally understanding what's what.
Okay, so we've covered some basics for describing things. Now let's look at how we can expand our vocabulary beyond those maybe initial simple adjectives. The masterclass offers some really useful synonyms. Instead of always reaching for small, you could try tiny, compact, modest, miniature, mini, or petite.
And what's interesting about these synonyms is that while they all mean, not big, they each carry slightly different connotations or feelings.
How so?
Well, tiny might suggest something fragile, maybe, while compact implies like efficient use of space.
I see, exactly. And for big, we have huge, enormous, gigantic, massive, and colossal. That really amps up the scale.
Indeed. Colossal, for instance, really emphasizes an immense size, something almost like awe-inspiringly large. Choosing the right synonym can really add impact to your descriptions.
The video also gives us alternative ways to express common ideas using suffixes mostly. Safe to eat becomes edible. Can be done transforms into feasible. Can be walked is walkable. Can be trusted is credible. Can be believed is plausible. And can be accepted is acceptable.
Using these more sophisticated words can often make your communication sound more formal and precise. That can be particularly useful in, say, professional contexts or academic writing.
We also have can be managed as manageable, can be shaped as malleable.
Good word, malleable.
Yeah, can be burned as combustible, and can be solved as solvable. Then we move to some important opposite pairs, often using prefixes. So persuade and dissuade, trust and mistrust.
Or distrust.
Right, or distrust. Visible and invisible, patient and impatient, connect and disconnect, cover and uncover, appear and disappear, tidy and untidy, judge and misjudge, and obey and disobey.
Understanding antonyms like these is a really effective way to build your vocabulary because listing one word often helps you remember its opposite.
That's true.
And it also allows you to express contrasting ideas more effectively.
And for those aiming for a more polished writing style, maybe for essays or reports, the masterclass suggests some stronger verb choices. Instead of just show, consider demonstrate.
Right.
Instead of important, use significant. Use becomes utilize, many becomes numerous, find becomes discover, good becomes beneficial, and bad becomes detrimental.
This is all about choosing words that carry a bit more weight and precision in formal writing. It can definitely elevate the tone and make your arguments feel more substantial.
The list continues with big becoming significant again, small becoming negligible.
Ooh, negligible. That's a good one for small.
Yeah. Easy becoming straightforward, hard becoming strenuous, get becoming obtain, keep becoming retain, tell becoming inform, say becoming articulate, and ask becoming inquire. These subtle shifts in vocabulary can really refine your written communication.
It's really about being intentional with your word choices, isn't it? Selecting the verb that most accurately conveys the nuance of what you actually mean.
Now, let's tackle those sometimes perplexing prepositions. Oh boy.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
The video clarifies some common usage. For example, with public transport, you are on the subway, but you wait at or in the subway station. What's the subtle difference there, really?
Well, generally, on refers to being inside or on the surface of the vehicle itself.
Okay.
Whereas at usually indicates a specific point or location, like the entrance or the platform, and in can refer to being within a larger enclosed space, like the whole station building.
Right, so you're in the station building, maybe, but on the actual train.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Similarly, you sit on a bench. For larger public spaces like Central Park, you can be at or in Central Park. While for a specific landmark within a city, like Rockefeller Plaza, it's usually at Rockefeller Plaza.
Think of at as often pointing to a more specific, recognizable location or point. In can be used for larger areas or when you're sort of surrounded by something, like being in a park with trees and paths all around you.
Okay, got it. When it comes to various modes of transport and locations, it's on a scooter, on a patio, in an elevator, on the bridge, and on a walkway.
Lots of on.
Yeah. You travel in a car, on a train, you arrive at the train station, and you sail on a boat. You can relax at or on the beach. Both.
Yeah, both work there, often interchangeably.
Yep.
Maybe at the beach implies the general location, while on the beach emphasizes being on the sand itself.
Okay. And you might place something at or on the counter. Decorations are on the wall, and solar panels are on the roof.
You can see a pattern kind of emerging here, can't you?
Wooga.
Often relates to being on a surface or a form of transport you ride.
Right.
While in is frequently used for enclosed spaces.
The video also covers prepositions for different kinds of places. You might grab coffee in a bakery or a cafe, enjoy nature at a park, take a rest sitting on a bench, wait in a parking lot or elevator, dine on a patio, freshen up in or on the shower. Shower can be in or on.
Yeah, in the shower is probably more common, meaning the cubicle.
Yeah.
But you could maybe say water splashes on the shower door. Context matters.
Okay. Sleep in or on the bed again. Both seem possible.
Usually in bed when you're under the covers, on the bed if you're just sitting on top.
Hide under the table, relax behind the couch, sit on the chair, position something between the plants, greet someone at the front door, wait at the bus stop, and store books on the shelf.
Makes sense.
If you live by the sea, you live on the coast and might take trips in the countryside. You might meet a friend at the corner of the street or at the park entrance, and children play on the swings. Someone knocks at the door. There might be a picture in the wall if it's recessed, maybe, or on the wall if it's hanging. Meetings are in the conference room. You might find fallen leaves on the forest floor and leave your keys on the table or in the kitchen and admire art on the wall.
Wow, that detailed breakdown really illustrates how context just dictates the correct preposition. It's all about understanding the spatial relationship between the object or person and the location.
Time prepositions are also covered. Events happen on Saturday at 5 p.m. in 1990, on weekends in the evening and at noon. And if you're taking a break, you're on vacation in July.
Yep. For time, we often use on for specific days and dates, at for precise times, and in for those broader periods like months, years, and parts of the day like the evening.
Finally, the ball and cup examples provide a really clear visual for understanding the difference between in, on, in front of, behind, beside, far from, and near. These basic spatial relationships are crucial for giving and understanding directions.
Yeah, visual aids like that can be incredibly helpful for internalizing the fundamental meanings of these prepositions. It makes it easier to apply them in different situations later.
Now let's delve into some of those tricky areas of noun usage, specifically when you generally don't add a plural as and when you typically don't use a or n.
The uncountable nouns.
The video lists nouns that usually don't take a plural as, such as thanks, advice, work, clothes, clothing, things, stuff, bags, luggage, weights, equipment, potatoes, rice, songs, music, animals, nature, vitamins, sleep, fights, peace, cars, traffic, muffins, and bread. Now hold on. Some of these, like bags, weights, potatoes, songs, fights, cars, and muffins, certainly can be plural. What's going on there?
That's a great observation, and it highlights an important aspect of language learning. Rules often have exceptions and nuances. The intention here, I suspect, is to point out nouns that are often treated as uncountable in certain contexts, even if they can technically have a plural form sometimes. For instance, we usually talk about pieces of advice rather than advices.
Yeah.
Or traffic refers to the general concept, not individual cars, so no plural.
Okay. That makes sense, focusing on the instances where the plural s is less common or where it's treated as a mass noun.
Exactly.
Moving on, the video lists nouns that generally don't take a or an. Dollar, money, message, information, minute, time, suggestion, advice, assignment, work, job, employment, meal, food, hand, help, break, sleep, ring, jewelry, choice, progress, compliment, praise, song, music, reason, motivation, clue, evidence, hug, and comfort. Again, wait. Some of these, like dollar, minute, ring, choice, compliment, song, reason, clue, hug, definitely can be used with a or an, a dollar, a minute, a song.
Right again. These lists seem more about highlighting nouns that are frequently used as uncountable nouns, meaning we don't typically put a or an before them in their general sense. Think of information, we usually say some information or a piece of information, not an information. Or money is general, but a dollar is specific.
Got it. So it's about the general versus specific use. The video then provides correct alternatives for nouns often used incorrectly with articles, like a bread becoming a loaf of bread.
Or a slice of bread.
Right. An advice becoming a piece of advice, a sand becoming a grain of sand, a soap becoming a bar of soap, a paper becoming a sheet of paper, unless you mean a newspaper, and a lettuce becoming a head of lettuce. These really clarify how to talk about these items in countable units.
These examples perfectly illustrate that concept of countable and uncountable nouns and how we use quantifiers like loaf of, piece of, bar of to talk about specific amounts of uncountable stuff.
Next up, the classic do versus make dilemma.
Ah, yes, the big one.
The Masterclass lists common collocations. You make your bed, make a decision, make a cup of coffee. Interestingly, it says, do someone a favor here. I thought it was make a favor.
That's a common confusion. It's definitely do someone a favor. Make doesn't quite work there.
Okay, good clarification. Then make a phone call, make an appointment, and make a cake. What's the general rule of thumb here, if one even exists?
Well, there isn't one single foolproof rule, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But make often relates to creating, constructing, or producing something new.
Like the cake or the decision.
Exactly. While do is often used for actions, obligations, tasks, or repetitive activities. But honestly, so much of it just comes down to memorizing these common pairings, these collocations.
Yeah, that makes sense. On the do side, we have do the dishes, do your homework, and do research. The video also mentions that sometimes both do and make can be used and invites viewers to share examples. It really shows how context-dependent English can be.
Indeed. There are definitely some gray areas where either verb might be acceptable or where the choice subtly changes the meaning. Practice and exposure help a lot here.
Now let's clarify the nuances of made of, made out of, made with, and made from. This is another tricky area. The video explains that something made of wood still looks like wood. The material is unchanged, essentially.
Right.
Whereas something made out of old clothes, say a quilt, has had its original form completely changed.
The original items aren't recognizable as clothes anymore.
Got it. Then made with chicken and vegetables simply lists the ingredients you can still identify.
Like in a stew or stir fry.
And something made from tomatoes, like ketchup, involves a significant transformation of the original ingredient. You don't see whole tomatoes in ketchup.
Exactly. Examples include a vase made of glass, a ring made of gold, a house made of bricks. But a birdhouse made out of a plastic bottle shows that transformation. This really helps distinguish the different ways we describe how things are constructed or composed.
It does. The key difference seems to be whether the original material has undergone a really significant change in the process.
That's a good way to summarize it, yeah.
The video then clarifies the use of while and during. You would listen to music while cooking dinner, two actions happening together, but you fell asleep during the movie, an action happening within a specific period.
Right.
The package arrived while I was working. Then it says someone lived in Texas for 3 years. Wait, that feels a bit out of place here, doesn't it? That's just foreshowing duration.
You're absolutely right. Lived in Texas for 3 years describes a duration using for. It doesn't really illustrate the contrast between while and during.
Good catch.
Okay, got it. Back to while and during. The lights went out for 2 hours. Another duration example. Kids were scared during the thunderstorm. We met them during our trip. And someone called me while I was in a meeting.
Okay, ignoring the for examples which seem misplaced.
It looks like while is often used with a clause, like while I was working or while cooking dinner, indicating simultaneous actions.
Right.
Whereas during is typically followed by a noun phrase referring to a specific period of time, like during the movie or during the thunderstorm.
That's a helpful way to think about it. While connects two actions happening at the same time. During pinpoints when an event occurs within a named period.
Precisely.
Now, for a really important section, avoiding common grammar mistakes. We all need this.
Always helpful.
The video highlights the difference between you and I, which is incorrect,
Very common error.
and between you and me, which is correct. It also emphasizes using subject pronouns correctly in lists, for example, Joe, Sue, and I went. Not Joe, Sue, and me went.
Right.
And using reflexive pronouns appropriately, noting that in the case of Sarah invited Sarah and me versus Sarah invited Sarah and myself, me is correct as the object. Why is between you and I such a persistent mistake?
I think it often stems from overcorrection. People are taught correctly not to say me and Joe went, but Joe and I went.
Right.
So they think I is always more correct or formal than me, and they incorrectly apply that rule even when me is needed as the object of a preposition like between or to or for. It should be between you and me, to you and me, for you and me.
That's a really helpful insight. The video also reinforces using object pronouns after prepositions in general, as in between you and me, and in comparisons using then, like she is better at tennis than me or than I am.
Yep, than me is standard informal usage. Than I or than I am is more formal.
It also gives the example of teaching myself correctly using the reflexive pronoun.
These examples really underline the importance of understanding the grammatical function of a pronoun. Is it the subject doing the action or the object receiving it?
Prepositions of place are touched on, again, with between you and me. There's also a prompt related to the team and, probably aiming to reinforce subject pronoun usage in compound subjects, again, like the team and I.
Makes sense.
The tricky lie versus lay is hinted at with the example, he promised he wouldn't lie, but he decided to. That's a grammar hurdle many, many learners face, and native speakers too.
Oh, absolutely. The lie, to recline, intransitive, lie, lay, lane, and lay, to place something down, transitive, lay, distinction, is a classic source of error. Remembering that lay usually takes a direct object can be a helpful tip.
Yeah.
You lay something down, you just lie down.
Good tip. Other common errors addressed include saying proactive and take initiative, which is a bit redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, being proactive kind of implies taking initiative.
Right. Versus the more concise proactive or took initiative, also began to gain momentum versus the slightly less natural began to gain momentum is the standard phrasing. The proper use of workload as a single noun is mentioned, along with the common prepositional phrase discussion about, which is generally correct, though sometimes discussion of might fit. Grew weary of is presented as a correct and useful idiom.
Recognizing and correcting these kinds of common, maybe smaller errors can really refine your English and make it sound more polished and natural over time.
We also see, especially ballet, as a natural way to add a specific example. New stationary is highlighted as the correct term for writing materials. Not stationary, like not moving.
That's a common spelling mix-up.
Yeah. The principal wants to see you reminds us of the correct spelling for the head of a school, not principal, like a rule.
Another classic pair.
Deeply affected her. Demonstrates correct adverb usage, modifying the verb affected. And met several scientists at the event is given as just standard correct phrasing.
These are all those subtle points that just contribute to overall accuracy and clarity in communication.
Finally, a comprehensive list of common preposition errors to watch out for. It's married to, not with, depend on, interested in, prefer coffee to tea, afraid of, responsible for, capable of doing something, waiting at the bus stop, usually maybe in if it's an enclosed shelter, disappointed with, or sometimes in or by, good at playing, angry at or with his brother. Both can be correct, maybe with for the person, at for the situation, tired of walking, worried about, excited about, belongs to, and famous for. Prepositions can definitely be tricky.
They absolutely are, and these examples highlight some of the most frequently confused ones. Paying close attention to these fixed prepositional phrases is really key to using them correctly. It often just requires memorization.
The video then includes a helpful section on checking your English level, A1, C2, using the CEFR scale with example sentences for each level. A1, I have a cat.
Simple present basic vocab.
A2, she goes to the store every day.
Present simple with third persons as routine actions.
B1, they didn't go to the party last night.
Past simple negative common irregular verb.
B2, he suggested going.
Verb pattern with gerund.
C1, despite the heavy traffic, we arrived on time.
Using despite for contrast, more complex sentence structure.
C2, had I known about the meeting, I would have attended.
Advanced conditional inversion. These sentences provide a good benchmark for understanding different levels of grammatical complexity. They really do. These examples offer a clear snapshot of the kind of grammar and vocabulary typically associated with each proficiency level in that common European framework.
Last but certainly not least, we explore the intriguing world of silent letters in English. Why?
The eternal question.
The video gives us lists of words with silent B, like thumb, doubt, debt, G, sign, gnome, foreign, H, honor, honest, hour, knife, not no, tight, calm, palm, talk, walk, piasmo, psychologist, receipt, pneumonia, S, island, aisle, debris, wrap, wrist, answer, and T, listen, asthma, castle, often though. Some people pronounce the T in often.
Yeah, often is a variable one.
But why do these silent letters even exist? It seems illogical.
Well, often these silent letters are like historical leftovers. They're remnants of how the words used to be pronounced maybe hundreds of years ago. Language evolves, pronunciation changes, but the spelling sometimes just stays the same. It's a fascinating window into the history of the English language, actually.
It really is. And finally, some valuable pronunciation practice with words categorized by English level, A1, C2. For A1, friend, work, walk, that's silent L again, close, as in near, the S sound, should another silent L, water.
Good basic ones.
For A2, answer, no W sound, island, that silent is, enough, that tricky E making an F sound, half silent L, advice with an S sound, unlike advise with a Z sound, cereal.
Getting trickier.
For B1, nauseous, temperature, often reduced syllables, isle, like island, silent S, scissor, silent is a tin.
Rural, that trickier sound.
Scissor's more like a silent as after the C, maybe. Yeah. Tricky one.
For B2, debris, silent as at the end. Hyperbole, stress pattern, mischievous, stress and pronunciation.
Right.
Entrepreneur, drought, silent. Mortgage, it disappears. Some tough ones there.
For C1, acquaintance, procrastinate, inevitable, ambiguity, eccentric, conscientious, lots of syllables.
Ew.
And for C2, acquiesce, ubiquitous, ephemeral, advantageous, watch the stress, conundrum, quintessential.
This carefully selected list provides excellent practice for tackling some of the common pronunciation challenges in English, including those pesky silent letters and some of the less predictable vowel sounds and stress patterns.
Wow, that was a truly deep dive. We covered an incredible amount of information there, didn't we?
You really did.
From those everyday phrasal verbs and vivid descriptive words to the complexities of preposition usage, those common grammar pitfalls to avoid, and essential pronunciation guidance, including navigating those baffling silent letters letters.
What's so valuable about looking at English in this way, piece by piece, is seeing how all these different elements, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, they all work together to create clear and effective communication.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing individual words, but understanding how they function within the bigger system of the language.
Absolutely. And our goal today was really to extract the most immediately useful insights from this masterclass, aiming to give your everyday English fluency a bit of a boost, and perhaps even more importantly, build your confidence in actually using the language.
Yeah, definitely. By focusing on these fundamental aspects, you can make really significant strides in your ability to express yourself clearly and understand others better. Doesn't matter if you're a learner or just looking to refine your existing English skills.
So here's a final thought to leave you with as you go about your day. Start actively paying attention to these words, these phrases, these grammar points in your daily interactions with English, maybe when you're listening to something, reading an article, or speaking with someone. Which of these areas we talked about surprised you the most, or which one do you personally find the most challenging?
Good question.
That realization could be a really interesting starting point for you to focus on as you continue your English language journey.
You're tuning into the deep dive because you're looking to sharpen your English vocabulary.
Yeah.
Maybe become seriously well-informed. Fantastic.
Hope so.
Today, we're diving headfirst into this interesting linguistic challenge. It comes from a YouTube video by Brian Wiles. If you know these 15 words, your English is excellent. And the claim is, well, if you master these 15 words, you're supposedly in the top 3% of English speakers worldwide.
Wow, that's quite a claim, isn't it? Top 3%.
It is. Pretty bold.
Yeah.
So the big question for you listening is, are you in that top 3%? Let's explore that.
Yeah, it immediately makes you wonder, like, what are these words? What makes this specific set so special?
Exactly. Maybe they unlock some deeper level of, understanding or expression.
Could be.
Now, in the original video, it's set up like a quiz. You get the word, 3 definitions, so you pick the right one. We'll follow that format, sort of.
Okay.
But our aim here is, well, to go a bit further than just the definitions. We want to really get a feel for the nuances, how they work in context.
Right, and maybe why knowing them is considered a sign of an excellent vocabulary.
Precisely. Think of this as a focused workout for your language skills. A quick but hopefully insightful one. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do it. It's about moving past just recognizing them to, really understanding and using them properly.
Okay, let's tackle the first batch. The video calls these medium difficulty. 5 words. First up, value.
Value, okay.
The options given are hope, worth, or uncertainty. Which one fits?
Well, in this context, the correct meaning for value is definitely worth.
Worth, right.
Yeah, the idea that something is useful or has monetary worth. The example they use is cars tend to lose their value over time.
Okay, that makes sense. It shows that economic or practical worth going down.
Exactly.
You might hope the value goes up and there's always uncertainty, but the core meaning here is worth.
Okay, next word.
Sustain.
Choices are to support, to weaken, or to finish.
And the answer there is to support, or, to keep something going over time.
Maintain it, basically. Yeah, maintain. The example, runners need to sustain their energy in order to finish a marathon. That captures it perfectly. It's about keeping up the effort.
Definitely. You wouldn't want to weaken your energy, that's for sure.
No.
And while finishing is the aim, sustaining gets you there. Okay, word number 3. Various.
Various, different, the same, or confusing.
Which one is it?
This one's different, yeah. Various just means several different kinds of things.
Like the example.
Right, you can buy various kinds of food at a supermarket. It's all about the range, the diversity available.
Makes sense. A supermarket with only one kind of potato wouldn't have various potatoes.
Exactly. Although sometimes the number of choices can be confusing.
Huh, true. But that's not what the word means. Okay, 4th word in this set. Emphasize.
Emphasize.
Does that mean to highlight, to remove, or to diminish?
The answer is to highlight. Yep. To emphasize something is to give it, special importance. Make it stand out.
Like the teacher in the example.
Precisely. The teacher emphasized the need to study before the exam. You're drawing attention to something crucial.
Right. You wouldn't remove or diminish the importance if you were emphasizing it.
Yeah.
Okay, last one for this first batch. Typical.
Typical. Is that ordinary, expensive, or complicated?
What do you think?
It's ordinary, yeah. Something typical is just normal, expected, nothing unusual about it.
Like the example day.
It was a typical day. I got up, I went to work, I came home, same old, same old. That paints the picture perfectly. Routine.
Right. An expensive day or a really complicated day wouldn't be typical for most people.
Probably not.
So that's the first 5.
Yeah.
How are you feeling out there? Maybe you're already in that top percentage. Now, the video moves on to what it calls slightly tougher words.
Let's see about tougher. It's interesting, though, how we judge difficulty. These next ones often have a bit more, maybe, social context or nuance.
That's a really good point. Okay, 6th word overall, first of this tougher set, blunt.
Blunt. Okay. Sharp, straightforward, or foolish.
What's the verdict?
Here, the correct answer is straightforward.
Straightforward, okay.
Yeah. Someone who is blunt speaks very directly, very openly, sometimes maybe too openly, could seem impolite.
Ah, okay. Like the example.
Catherine was blunt about her opinions, even if they upset others. It shows that directness. It's about how you communicate.
Gotcha. So sharp might fit a comment, but blunt is more about the lack of filter.
Exactly. And it's usually not about being foolish.
Right. Okay, next up. Consequence. Is that a cause, a result, or ignorance?
Consequence. Yeah. The correct definition is result. Yeah. It's what happens because of an action or a choice, and often, like the example shows, it's a negative result.
The example was?
The consequence of skipping class was that John failed his course.
Yeah.
So the failure is the direct result of skipping.
Okay. Cause and effect. While a cause comes before and ignorance might lead to bad results, the consequence is the result. Got it.
Word number 8. Strain.
Strain. To relax, to look down on, or to make a great effort.
This one is to make a great effort.
Yeah.
Straining means you're really exerting yourself, physically or mentally. Often it's difficult, maybe even painful.
Like lifting heavy boxes.
Spot on. Jack strained his back while lifting those heavy boxes. You can almost feel that effort, can't you?
Oof, yes. Definitely not relaxing.
And nothing to do with looking down on someone.
No. Okay, number 9. Authentic. Is that unoriginal, genuine, or serious?
Authentic. That's genuine. Real, not a copy.
Like the painting example.
Exactly. Experts confirm that the painting was authentic. It means it's the real deal, verified.
Right. Unoriginal is the opposite. And while you might treat something authentic seriously, that's not the meaning itself. Good. 10th word, last in this set. Evolve.
Evolve. To remain the same, to change gradually, or to fall apart.
Which one fits?
It's to change gradually, yeah. Evolve means to develop over time, often getting, more complex.
Like technology.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Since the 1980s, information technology has evolved rapidly. We've all seen that kind of gradual but significant change.
Absolutely. Things don't remain the same, and hopefully they don't just fall apart. All right, that's the medium and slightly tougher sets done. Now, the video calls these the most difficult words.
Oh.
Hold on tight.
Yeah, this last group, these often test a more, let's say, advanced vocabulary. Words you might not use every single day, but they're important for understanding more complex stuff.
Right. Let's dive in. Word 11. Blithely.
Blithely. Okay. Carefree and cheerful, serious and somber, or confident and experienced.
Tricky one?
It is a bit. The core is carefree and cheerful, but there's a key nuance.
Which is?
It often implies someone is carefree when maybe they shouldn't be. There's a lack of concern that seems inappropriate. The example nails it. Mary kept spending money blithely even though her bank account was almost empty.
Ah, so it's cheerful, but maybe ignorantly or recklessly cheerful? That makes sense. It's not just happy. There's that shadow of obliviousness.
Precisely.
Okay, word 12. Ambiguous. Identical, overworked, and exhausted, or open to more than one interpretation.
That one's open to more than one interpretation.
Ambiguous means unclear.
Essentially, yeah. Its meaning isn't fixed. It could be understood in different ways. Like the example. The essay instructions were ambiguous, so Jennifer asked for more specific details. That lack of clarity causes problems.
We've all been there with ambiguous instructions.
Yeah.
They're definitely not identical or overworked.
Yeah.
Okay, 13. Facilitate.
Facilitate. To make longer, to make easier, or to make stronger.
What does it facilitate?
It makes things easier. Yeah. To facilitate something is to make it smoother, more efficient, easier to do.
Like the software example.
Right. The new software will facilitate communication between team members. It simplifies things.
Makes total sense. You want things to be easier, not longer, or necessarily stronger in a brute force way. Okay, number 14. Almost there. Succinct.
Succinct. Is it brief, vague, or condescending? The core is brief, but it's more than just brief.
Oh, so?
It's brief and clear. Succinct communication gets straight to the point without unnecessary fluff. The example says, her explanation was succinct and covered all the main points without unnecessary information.
Ah, brief and clear. Got it. So not vague, which is the opposite of clear.
Exactly. And while you could be condescending succinctly,
Yeah.
that's not what the word means.
Right. Okay, the final word, number 15. Eschew.
Eschew. To undo, to avoid, or to promote.
What are we doing if we eschew something?
We are avoiding it. Deliberately.
Deliberately avoid.
Yes. To eschew means to consciously decide to stay away from something or give it up. Like in the example, Zach decided to eschew social media so he could focus on preparing for medical school.
Okay, a very intentional avoidance, not undoing something or promoting something.
Correct.
Well, there we are. All 15 words in the video unpacked a little.
Yeah, and looking back at them, you can see they do represent a step up maybe into more formal or nuanced English. Words you'd find in more complex writing or discussions.
So let's circle back to that initial claim. Top 3%. Now, we don't know the exact data behind that number.
No, it's hard to verify that specific percentage.
But it does seem clear that these aren't words most people use in, everyday chat.
I think what's really valuable here, though, isn't the percentage. It's the act of actually engaging with these words.
How do you mean?
Well, whether you listening knew all 15, or maybe just a few, the process itself, thinking about the definitions, the examples, the nuances, that expands your linguistic toolkit.
Absolutely. It's much less about some score and more about the ongoing journey of learning, right?
Exactly. And that journey, that effort to grasp more subtle language, that's really key if you want to be, as you said, well-informed and navigate all the complex information out there.
Yeah, it ties together.
For sure. When you think about it, a richer vocabulary allows for more precise thinking, better communication. Words like, say, ambiguous or consequence, they aren't just words on a list.
They're concepts.
Right. They represent fundamental ideas for critical thinking, for making good judgments. Understanding those subtleties really empowers you to interpret things more effectively.
So as you reflect on these 15 words, maybe think about your own understanding of them now after this chat. And here's a final thought to chew on. How might a deeper grasp of words like ambiguous or, say, consequence actually change how you interpret information you see every day, or even how you make decisions?
Good question.
And beyond these 15, what other words, maybe words that seem simple on the surface, might actually hold hidden depths that are worth exploring? That's your challenge maybe as you continue your own deep dive into language.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take sources you're curious about, pull out the key bits, and make them really easy to grasp.
That's right. And today, we're diving into English vocabulary. Specifically, we're looking at words and phrasal verbs from a YouTube transcript someone shared.
Yeah, it's from the J4's English channel. The video is called, If You Know These 60 Words, Your English is Excellent. Quite a claim.
It is, but it's actually pretty well put together. It starts with beginner words, moves to intermediate, then advanced.
And throws in phrasal verbs, too, which are always, a bit tricky.
Exactly. So it gives a really nice overview of different levels of English.
Okay, cool. So let's get right to it, starting with some of those beginner everyday words. The first one that kind of jumped out was bogus.
Bogus. Yeah. So the video explains it means not genuine, basically fake or false.
Right. Like the examples, they used bogus ID or maybe a bogus deal. And I did find it funny when the host sort of asked if J4's English itself was bogus.
Yeah, hopefully not. It does highlight that bogus often implies deception, doesn't it?
Right.
Maybe more than just fake.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a sense of it trying to mislead you somehow.
Right. And linking it to their own channel is, well, it's a pretty memorable way to teach it.
Definitely sticks. Okay, so building on that, that feeling of something being not quite right, the next word is fishy.
Fishy. Yeah, literally like a fish that's gone bad, that smell.
Oh, yeah. But figuratively, the video uses, there's something fishy about his story. So it means suspicious, right? Not trustworthy.
Exactly. It's that gut feeling that something's off. You were wondering about the cultural connection.
Yeah, do other languages link bad smells and suspicion? Seems kind of primal.
I think many do, actually.
Okay.
Smell is such a basic warning sense for us, So using a bad smell metaphorically for mistrust, it makes sense.
Okay.
And the video does a nice job linking it back. It says something like, I knew the deal was bogus because he was fishy.
Yeah. So you can see how they work together. Bogus deal, fishy guy. Got it.
Precisely.
Okay, next word. Scramble. The video starts with scrambled eggs.
Which is a good visual, right? All mixed up.
Yeah, but then it moves to the verb. Like if you're late for a flight, you have to scramble.
Right, moving quickly, but maybe a bit chaotically. Hurried, disorganized.
Exactly. Finishing a project last minute, that frantic energy, it's not just fast, it's fast and messy, kind of.
Yeah, that disorganized element is key.
Yeah.
Trying to catch up, maybe a bit panicked.
Right. Okay, then there's hunch. This is a noun, isn't it?
Yep. It's that feeling you get, a guess, based on intuition, not really on facts. Your gut feeling.
Like the example, I had a hunch the deal was bogus. Ties back again.
Nicely done, yeah. And you have a hunch. It's that internal thing.
That little voice you can't quite explain, but you just know something.
Exactly. Subconscious processing, maybe.
Yeah.
Often weirdly accurate.
Totally. Okay, last one for the beginners. Cringe.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we've all felt that. The verb, meaning you feel embarrassed or uncomfortable about something awkward. The host even did the physical cringe thing, but what's interesting is using it as an adjective now, right? Like, that was so cringe.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely newer, probably from social media. It means it made me cringe.
It's super efficient, though. Everyone knows exactly what you mean. That secondhand embarrassment.
It's become total shorthand for that feeling.
Okay, moving on. Let's hit some intermediate words. First one, rusty.
Rusty. Literally, metal covered in rust, of course.
But figuratively, like the video says, it's for skills you haven't practiced. My speaking skills are a little rusty.
Yeah, very relatable, especially for language learners, I think. If you're listening and feel that way, you're not alone.
It's a good metaphor, isn't it? Something once smooth is now rough because you haven't used it.
Exactly. Like a skill fading from lack of practice.
Okay, next, tangled. The video uses tangle earphones as the example.
The universal frustration.
Totally. That messy, twisted state. And it also mentions untangle, the opposite.
Right, like tangled hair, tangled wires.
Yeah.
It's about that lack of order, basically.
And the effort it takes to sort it out.
That fiddly process.
Then we have flimsy. This one has like two main meanings.
Yeah, pretty much. First, something light and easily broken, like a flimsy chair.
Right. But also weak or unbelievable, like a flimsy excuse.
Exactly. So it can be physical weakness or a lack of credibility.
The connection is that lack of substance, maybe. It just doesn't hold up.
That's a good way to put it. Doesn't hold up well, physically or metaphorically.
Okay, savvy is next. S-A-V-V-Y.
Savvy, it means having practical knowledge, like real understanding in a specific area.
Like being tech savvy or business savvy, having the know-how.
Yeah, it's not just book smarts. It's being able to apply knowledge effectively. Competence.
Understanding things beyond just the basics. Adeptness. Are you tech savvy?
Reasonably, I think. Enough to get by.
Fair enough. Okay, last intermediate word. Dull.
Dull. Literally, not sharp, like a dull knife.
But figuratively, lacking interest or excitement. Boring, basically.
Right. The host even jokes, hoping the lesson isn't dull.
Yeah, and asks for feedback. Good reminder for us, too. Hope this isn't dull for you.
Exactly. Let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, dull is about that lack of stimulation, something that just doesn't engage you.
Got it. Okay, let's switch to intermediate phrasal verbs. These can be a bit more challenging sometimes.
They definitely can. The meaning isn't always obvious from the parts.
First one is pull off. What does that mean?
It means to succeed in doing something difficult or maybe unexpected.
Like the example, pulling off a high score on the IELTS test.
Exactly. You managed to do it, even though it was tough. The pull suggests effort, maybe.
Yeah, overcoming something to achieve it. Okay, next, take off.
Take off, like an airplane.
Right. And in this context, it means becoming successful or popular really quickly.
Yeah, like a business suddenly does really well, it takes off.
Yeah.
Or your English skills improve dramatically, they take off.
That upward trajectory. Momentum, growth.
Exactly. Leaving the ground, ascending.
Okay, then put off. P-U-T off.
Procrastination's favorite phrasal verb. It means to delay or postpone something.
Like putting off booking that appointment or putting off cleaning the garage. Again.
Guilty. But yeah, it's about pushing it to later. Importantly, it's not canceling.
Right, that's different. So put off is reschedule, delay.
Setting it aside for a future time.
Okay, then turn around.
Turn around. This means making something unsuccessful become successful.
Like turning around a failing business. Or maybe turning around your language skills from weak to strong.
Exactly. That sense of transformation is key. Reversing course from bad to good.
Nice visual. Okay, and the last intermediate one, call off. C-A-L off.
Call off. This one does mean cancel.
Ah, okay. So put off is delay, call off is cancel.
Precisely. The video used the example of calling off a conference because of a hurricane.
Right. You wouldn't just postpone it then, you'd cancel it entirely. That makes the difference clear.
Yeah, the hurricane example shows the finality of call off. It's done.
Gotcha. Okay, deep breath. Advanced words now. These often have more subtle meanings, right?
Yeah, they can add a lot more nuance and impact to your communication. First one is grim.
Grim. Grim sounds so grim.
It means extremely bad, worrying, maybe hopeless, like grim news, a grim forecast, a grim expression.
So not just bad, but really bleak,
Yeah.
heavy, little room for optimism.
That's it. A sense of severity, lack of positive potential.
Okay. Next, baffle.
Baffle. As a verb, it means to cause total confusion.
Like a result could be baffling, or you could be baffled by someone's decision.
Exactly. The video mentions it's often used in the passive. I was baffled.
Meaning you just couldn't understand it at all. Utterly perplexed.
Yeah, like you've hit a mental wall trying to figure it out.
Okay. Demeanor is next. Demeaor, noun.
Yes, a noun. It refers to someone's way of looking and behaving, their outward manner.
So you could describe someone as having a calm demeanor or a serious demeanor.
Exactly. Or a friendly demeanor. It covers appearance and behavior, the overall impression they give, their disposition.
How they carry themselves. Okay. Then camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Camaraderie. Bit of a mouthful.
Huh, yeah. It means that feeling of mutual trust and friendship, right? Especially among people who spend time together, like a team.
Spot on. That bond that forms through shared experience, working together, mutual support.
The video mentioned two pronunciations too.
Yeah, camaraderie or camaraderie. Both seem pretty common. It's that feeling of belonging in a group.
Nice. Okay, last advanced word from our main list. Intimidating.
Intimidating. An adjective meaning something makes you feel frightened or nervous.
Like speaking with native speakers can feel intimidating at first, or maybe moving to a new city alone.
Absolutely. Or someone might have an intimidating demeanor linking back. It's that feeling of unease, feeling challenged or potentially overwhelmed.
That perception of something being powerful or difficult that makes you feel less confident.
Exactly.
Wow, okay, we've covered quite a range there, from bogus right up to intimidating.
We really have. And that's just a selection from the video, isn't it?
Yeah, the transcript mentions a whole load more. Let me see. Aloof, fluster, quirk, trivial, vent, nudge, glitch, posh, blunder, clumsy.
And more phrasal verbs too, like catch up on, blurt out, comb through, skim through, gloss over, pan out, drift off, dip into, pick up, shake off. Wow.
Plus even more advanced stuff like prevalent, blatant, resolute, hinder, obstacles, circumvent, exacerbate, nuance, disdain, pivotal. It's a lot.
It really is a comprehensive list in that video.
Yeah.
So if any of those others sparked your interest, definitely check out the original J4 source.
Or, yeah, let us know. If you want us to dive into those remaining ones, we could potentially do a follow-up.
Definitely an option.
But hopefully for today, you got some of those aha moments, like seeing the connection between bogus and fishy.
Or maybe later on, thinking about hinder and obstacle and how you might circumvent them, seeing how words relate.
Yeah, that was the goal. To give you a good, solid understanding without just drowning you in definitions.
And stepping back, learning these words isn't just about having a bigger vocabulary list. It's about understanding the subtleties, the nuances of English.
The different shades of meaning, yeah. And maybe even a bit about the culture embedded in the language.
Absolutely.
So here's something to maybe think about after this. Which of these words or phrases we talked about today, maybe one that was new or you weren't sure about, could you actually try using?
Yeah, actively incorporating it. That's how it really sticks, right? Using it to express yourself more precisely.
Exactly. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Yeah, it was fun exploring all that vocabulary.
Ever think about how quickly your brain can actually soak up new words? Some research hints that just a few solid encounters, in the right context, can really make them stick.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to becoming well-informed. We take all the research and bring you the crucial insights, specifically tailored for you, the learner, without leaving you feeling buried.
And today we're going to really dig into a YouTube transcript from J. Forrest English, our focus, extracting the most valuable vocabulary and language learning strategies with a real emphasis on the IELTS exam.
Exactly. This isn't just a quick skim. I mean, this transcript is packed with hundreds of useful vocabulary words, complete with clear definitions and how you might actually use them. We've also got practical phrases perfect for the speaking section, straightforward explanations of core grammar like to be, to do, and to have, a great list of those tricky, irregular verbs.
Oh, yeah. Those are always fun.
Even an academic-style reading passage on time travel, plus some helpful pointers on listening comprehension, spelling rules, and how to practice your speaking.
So our aim today really is to equip you with vocabulary that's genuinely useful, grammar knowledge you can put into practice immediately, and learning techniques that actually work.
Right. Whether you're tackling IELTS or just want to boost your overall English fluency, we want to make this engaging and, truly memorable.
Okay, let's really dig into this, though.
Let's kick off with the vocabulary. Jennifer from J. Forrest English shares a ton of great words. And instead of just running through a list, let's think about how understanding them can actually shift your perspective on language learning and communication.
Good point.
Take feasible, for instance. It means possible to do easily. The transcript uses the example of getting a high IELTS score being more feasible with a good teacher.
Right. But what does that really tell us? It highlights the importance of the right resources, the right guidance in reaching your language goals. Makes something daunting feel, achievable.
Yeah, exactly. It's about setting realistic expectations and recognizing what actually helps you succeed.
Then we have proponent, someone who supports a theory or proposal. The transcript mentions proponents of renewable energy. So thinking about this, when you're discussing topics in English, being able to identify and understand the viewpoints of different proponents is, it's crucial for a well-rounded conversation, whether you agree with them or not.
Absolutely. It's about seeing different angles. Then there's deploy, which can mean moving something into action or using it strategically.
Like troops or...
Yeah, they give the example of deploying emergency teams after a hurricane. But we can also deploy our vocabulary strategically when we're writing or speaking, choosing the most effective words to get our meaning across precisely.
Exactly. It's about active application, not just like passive knowledge sitting there.
Right.
Consider notable, meaning worthy of attention or remarkable. The example of the difference between rural and urban healthcare access being notable, that highlights significant disparities, right?
Yeah, it really does. And when you're discussing social issues, being able to identify and articulate what is notable is key to effective communication, maybe even raising awareness.
And those historical examples she uses, like the African soldiers, they really do make the word stick, don't they? It's not just some abstract concept.
For sure. Then we have detrimental, causing harm. Like the detrimental effects of too much screen time on mental health. That's one we hear a lot.
We do. And understanding its weight helps us communicate concerns effectively, especially about well-being.
Precisely. These initial words already show how vocabulary isn't just about knowing definitions. It's about understanding how language shapes, how we see the world and talk about it.
Absolutely. Now, the next set includes mitigate, to make something less severe. The example of using renewable energy to mitigate climate change is so relevant today.
Totally. It shows how this word is central to discussions about solutions, about fixing global challenges.
Right. And it emphasizes taking action to reduce negative impacts. That comes up in all sorts of contexts.
It does. Then there's discrepancy, a lack of compatibility between facts, like income level differences between urban and rural populations.
Yeah, this word is vital when you're analyzing information and spotting inconsistencies. A key skill in academic settings, but also just in life.
It points to the need for critical thinking, for examining data closely.
Following that, we have resilient, able to bounce back from difficulty. Thinking about communities recovering from disasters. This word carries a sense of hope, of strength in adversity. That's powerful to convey.
It's a word that speaks to the human spirit, definitely. Next is alleviate, to make suffering or problem less severe, like policies to alleviate housing shortages.
This focuses on finding solutions, addressing needs. It's a core aspect of many social and political discussions.
And it highlights that proactive aspect, trying to actually improve situations.
Then we have vulnerable, susceptible to harm. The example given is older people being more vulnerable during severe weather.
This word brings attention to those who need protection and care, influencing how we discuss social responsibility. It carries a real ethical weight.
It does. And rounding out this set is paradigm, a typical example or model. often used when discussing shifts in thinking, like the adoption of digital technology in classrooms.
Right. This is a bigger picture word, helps us understand fundamental changes in how we approach things.
It's about recognizing when there's a fundamental shift, yeah, in the way we think or do things. Okay, moving on to viable, capable of working successfully, like solar power as a viable alternative.
The fact that it's presented as an alternative highlights that process of exploring different solutions, doesn't it?
It does, and the connection to feasible is helpful too. Is it not just possible, but can it actually work in the long run?
Good question. Then we have benign, having no harmful effect, like construction having a benign effect on wildlife.
This word is often used in assessing the impact of actions, looking for outcomes that aren't negative. It sets a benchmark for acceptable impact, often contrasting with potentially harmful effects.
Next is conducive, making a situation likely, like a tidy space being conducive to concentration.
Definitely relatable for anyone trying to focus. It's a practical word that helps us think about how our environment influences our behavior and outcomes.
For sure. Following that is incentive, something that motivates, like financial incentives for clean energy companies.
This is the key concept in understanding why people and organizations make certain choices. It's about understanding the driving forces behind actions and decisions.
Okay, our fourth set starts with compile, to assemble information, like researchers compiling data.
This is fundamental to research and building knowledge, right? Bringing together different pieces of information. It's the groundwork for analysis and understanding.
Then we have contradictory, mutually opposed, like findings that both support and undermine a hypothesis.
Recognizing contradictory information is crucial for critical evaluation. It forces us to question assumptions, look for more evidence.
Next is foster, to encourage development, usually of something good, like schools fostering creativity.
This word emphasizes nurturing positive growth and skills, a central aim of education and many other fields.
Following that is retention, continued possession, like employee retention being important for a company's stability.
This highlights the value of holding on to valuable resources, whether it's people or, information. It speaks to the importance of continuity and expertise.
And the last word in that set is depict, to represent through art, like a painting depicting a historical event.
This reminds us of the power of visual language to convey meaning, brings a different dimension to how we understand and communicate.
Okay, our fifth set starts with steer clear of, meaning to avoid something, like advice to steer clear of processed foods.
Phrasal verbs like this are so common in spoken English, right? And understanding them makes your comprehension much smoother. They add a layer of informality and naturalness.
Definitely. Then we have solely, not involving anyone else, or only, like a decision not solely based on price.
This word helps us emphasize that there are often multiple factors at play. It clarifies the scope and limitations of something.
Next is abundant, existing in large quantities, like a region with abundant natural resources.
This word is often used to describe availability. It paints a picture of plenty and can influence economic and environmental discussions.
Following that is sustainability, the ability to be maintained, often in environmental contexts, like investing in renewables for sustainability.
This is such a crucial concept for long-term well-being. It's about thinking about the future, not just the present moment.
And the last word in this set is assess, to evaluate, like teachers assessing student progress.
This is a core part of learning and improvement, right? It provides feedback and helps gauge understanding.
Finally, our sixth set begins with target, an objective, like aiming for a specific percentage reduction in emissions.
This word gives a sense of direction, of purpose. It implies a clear goal in mind.
Then we have elicit, to get a response, often through questioning, like questions designed to elicit honest answers.
This is key in communication and research. It's about drawing out information or feelings.
Next is decipher, to interpret something difficult, like trying to decipher an ancient language.
This highlights the challenge and also the reward of understanding the unknown. It's like solving a puzzle with language.
Following that is fluctuate, to change irregularly, like market prices fluctuating.
This word describes instability or variability. It's a common characteristic of many real-world systems.
Then we have outline, to give a summary, like a speaker outlining their main points.
This is essential for clear and organized communication. It provides a framework for understanding.
Next is promote, to actively encourage, like campaigns promoting healthy habits.
This word focuses on positive encouragement and action. aiming to foster positive change in behavior or attitudes.
Following that is habitat, the natural environment of an organism, like protecting habitats to save endangered species.
This is a fundamental concept in ecology. It underscores the interconnectedness of living things and their environment.
And the final word in this extensive vocabulary exploration is augment, to make something larger or more intense, like increasing funding for public services.
So what's the big picture here? It seems like vocabulary isn't just a collection of words.
Exactly. It's a set of tools for understanding and engaging with the world around you. By understanding these words in context, you're not just memorizing definitions, you're gaining a deeper understanding of the concepts they represent and how they're used to convey complex ideas.
Well put. Okay, now let's shift our focus a bit, maybe to the IELTS speaking phrases.
Sounds good. This section of the transcript is incredibly practical for anyone getting ready for the speaking exam. Jennifer provides ready-made phrases for those common questions you're likely to encounter.
Yeah, they're really useful starting points.
Starting with where you live, she suggests, I was born and raised in city country. Notice that simple past tense of to be fundamental, but she doesn't stop there.
Right, she immediately adds a layer of complexity, suggesting, I was born and raised in city, but now I live in city country. This shows you how to expand on a basic answer, provide more detail, and demonstrate, a higher level of fluency.
Exactly. Then she covers using the present perfect. I've lived here for over a number of years now. This tense is perfect for talking about experiences that started in the past and continue to the present.
And in the present, perfect continuous for live, work, and study. I've been living here for duration. That subtle difference between the perfect and perfect continuous can really impress examiners. The continuous often emphasizes the duration of an ongoing action.
Absolutely.
Moving on to tell me about your work. She starts with a straightforward, I'm in an IDIAN job title, but importantly, she reminds you to use the correct article a or an.
Which is a common area for errors, yeah.
Totally. She even touches on when to use the for more specific roles within a company. Those little grammar points can make a big difference in how polished your English sounds. They really can. Then she suggests a more general statement using a gerund. Being in job title is rewarding. Using gerunds, the ing form of verbs used as nouns can add sophistication to your speech.
They certainly do. She then moves to expressing preferences along with a gerund like, I love using my skills to solve problems, and gives concrete examples like analytical skills and complex problems.
This shows you how to personalize your answers and provide specific details. She also includes, I enjoy collaborating with my team and brainstorming unique solutions to complex problems, demonstrating more advanced vocabulary in action.
And she doesn't shy away from introducing contrast, suggesting the use of however to bring up challenges. However, being in a job title also has its challenges.
Using transition words like however creates a smoother flow in your speech and shows you can present different sides of an issue.
Exactly. She then suggests using specifically to elaborate on a challenge, giving the example, specifically, I work around the clock to meet tight deadlines.
And the inclusion of the idiom around the clock is a great tip for adding natural idiomatic language to your speaking.
Now for tell me about your hobbies, Jennifer recommends starting with a gerund statement that includes your opinion, such as, in my opinion, having hobbies is integral to living a fulfilling life.
And she even provides a list of other useful opinion phrases like, in my view, and from my perspective. Starting with an opinion makes your answer more engaging, shows you're thinking critically about the topic.
Yeah. She then moves on to stating a specific hobby. I'm an avid hobby, and explains that avid combined with a noun shows a strong passion or interest. That's a powerful way to convey your enthusiasm.
And again, she uses gerund statements to explain the benefits of your hobby. For example, hobbying gives me the opportunity to benefit, and gives examples like disconnect from devices or enjoy nature.
She even points out that you can use both the verb form, like gardening, and the noun form, gardening, depending on the sentence structure.
The advice for when you don't have any hobbies is particularly practical, I thought.
Me too.
She suggests phrases like, until now, my focus has been on my career. However, I'm considering taking up activity, highlighting the use of the present perfect, has been, the phrasal verb take up, and the fact that consider is followed by a gerund.
It shows you how to answer honestly even if you don't have a typical hobby. And she provides an alternative. However, I'd love to take up activity using I would love, followed by the infinitive.
Plus, she touches on future gerund statements like, activitying will give me the opportunity to benefit, paired with phrases like, I'm confident, hopeful that. This demonstrates your ability to talk about future plans and aspirations.
For tell me about your family, she suggests using descriptive adjectives like, I'm from a close-knit family, and gives the synonym, my family and I are very close.
Simple but effective way to describe your family dynamic. She also covers general agreement with, everyone in my family gets along really well, extremely well. Reminds you that everyone takes a singular verb. Another common mistake point.
Good reminder. And the phrasal verb take after is a fantastic addition. Everyone says, I take after my mom in looks and I take after my dad in personality. Explaining that it means to resemble someone physically or in character is really helpful.
When talking about travel, she starts with expressing desire. I'd love the opportunity to visit travel to place, and importantly, reminds you of the correct verb and preposition combinations.
Yeah, those little prepositions matter.
They do. She also covers the second conditional. If I could travel anywhere, I'd choose place. This shows you can discuss hypothetical situations.
And another useful gerund statement of priority. Visiting place is at the top of my list, which sounds very natural.
She then suggests using the present perfect for a long-term desire. Traveling to place has been at the top of my list for as long as I can remember. This demonstrates your ability to talk about lasting aspirations.
Using an opinion word to strengthen your desire is a great tip. From my perspective, the landmark are one of our world's greatest treasures.
And she finishes with a more advanced expression of enjoyment. And I'd revel in the opportunity to see them with my own eyes, explaining that revel in plus the infinitive means to thoroughly enjoy something.
Finally, she includes bonus phrases for clarifying your answers, like, what I'm trying to say is, and, in other words, recommending that you memorize a few of these.
That's smart. This whole section really gives you a practical toolkit for tackling the IELTS speaking exam with confidence.
It really does. Okay, now, shall we dive into some essential grammar?
Let's do it. Focusing on those foundational verbs, to be, to do, and to have. The transcript gives us a solid review of how they function, both as main verbs and as those helpful auxiliary verbs that support other verbs.
Starting with to be as a main verb, Jennifer walks through the present simple forms am, are, is, and how we use them for stating facts or emotions.
Right. Then it's on to the past. Simple was and were for talking about completed actions in the past. And finally, the future simple with will be. She also gives a quick reminder about using contractions in spoken English to sound more natural.
Always good to remember contractions.
And the review of to be as an auxiliary verb is equally thorough. It covers the present continuous, amisar plus verbing, for actions happening now.
The past continuous, wesser plus verbing, for actions ongoing in the past.
The future continuous will be plus verbing for future ongoing actions, and the present and past perfect tenses using been. Understanding how these tenses are formed and when to use them is just crucial for accurate communication.
The section on passive voice is particularly valuable, I think.
Me too. It breaks down the structure in various tenses, present, past perfect, and even future, using that clear example of the cake was eaten.
And while all forms are covered, she rightly points out that the present and past passive are the ones you'll encounter and use most frequently. Knowing when to use active versus passive voice can really refine your writing and speaking.
Indeed. And the mention of the subjunctive mood with, if I were you, is important for expressing hypothetical or unreal situations, especially in more formal contexts and exams.
Right. She even acknowledges that many native speakers informally say, if I was you, but emphasizes the grammatically correct form for those formal situations, like the IELTS.
Which is key. Then comes a really useful part, a quick quiz on common expressions and idioms that used to be.
Like to be on cloud 9 for being extremely happy.
And to be in hot water for being in trouble. These kinds of idiomatic expressions can really add color and authenticity to your English.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to do as a main verb.
Okay. The transcript covers its use in the present simple for talking about routines and regular activities, often with those handy adverbs of frequency like always or sometimes.
It also looks at the present continuous for actions happening now or planned for the near future, the past simple using did, and the present perfect with have, has plus done for actions completed in the past that have a present result.
And the examples of common activities we do, like the dishes or homework, are very practical.
And understanding to do as an auxiliary verb is essential for forming questions, right? Both yes-no questions and those that start with we words.
Definitely. It also covers using to do for emphasis in statements and questions, like saying, I did subscribe, to really stress the point.
Yes. Plus, it touches on those tricky tag questions like, You like it, don't you?
Tag questions can be a subtle way to engage your listener and confirm understanding. And the quiz on common expressions with to do is another great takeaway.
Yeah, featuring phrases like to do someone a favor and what's done is done.
Knowing these expressions will make your English sound much more natural and idiomatic.
Okay, finally, the deep dive into to have. As a main verb, it covers its basic meaning of possession in the present simple.
I have 2 cats. She has a penguin. Love the example.
Me too. And how it can be used in the present continuous to talk about experiences like having a good time or even having a baby, meaning expecting.
Right, contrasting that with possession, you wouldn't say I'm having 2 cats. That distinction is a key point to remember.
Definitely. And the past simple had for both possession and past experiences.
Then the explanation of to have as an auxiliary verb focuses on forming the present perfect, have has plus past participle, and the past perfect, had plus past participle.
It also briefly touches on contractions like I've and he's, and even points out a common difference between American and British English when using have for possession.
That kind of cultural nuance is always good to be aware of. The transcript also gives a quick overview of the other perfect tenses.
And then there's a really helpful quiz on negation with have, showing you the correct ways to say things like, I don't have a dog versus I have no time. Understanding negation properly is crucial for clear communication.
It really is. And the final quiz on common expressions with have, such as to have a blast and to have butterflies in your stomach, really ties together how this fundamental verb is used in so many different ways.
This detailed grammar section provides a fantastic foundation for building more complex language skills. It really does cover the essentials.
Okay, so moving on. How about tackling those often intimidating irregular verbs?
Let's do it. The transcript provides a list of 50 common ones in their base, past simple and past participle forms. And importantly, it highlights where the pronunciation changes.
This list is such a valuable resource for learners. It includes verbs you use all the time, like be, become, begin, bring, and buy.
And calling out those pronunciation shifts, like with choose, chose, chosen, where the S sound changes to a Z.
Or read, where the spelling stays the same, but the vowel sound changes.
Yeah.
That's incredibly helpful because you can't always rely on spelling alone.
Absolutely. And including less obvious points, like that get has 2 common past participles, got and gotten, with gotten being more common in American English.
And explaining the meaning of stood me up, which is related to stand, that adds that extra layer of practical understanding.
Yeah, mastering these irregular verbs is a real stepping stone to more fluent and natural English.
It truly is. Now let's transition to the reading deep dive. Here we're looking at an academic passage that touches on the fascinating topic of time travel.
Ooh, interesting.
And the transcript wisely breaks down the key vocabulary and phrases you might encounter in such a text.
The overview of the article itself is cool, talking about how discoveries in science can sometimes blur the lines with what we thought was just science fiction.
Right, in this case with the idea of neutrinos traveling faster than light.
Then it jumps into specific vocabulary from the beginning of the passage, like making sure you understand the difference between science fiction and nonfiction.
Explaining that toward and towards are both correct, and defining words like exceed, neutrinos, and unassuming.
Yeah, I liked the example of an unassuming restaurant with great food. Makes it relatable.
The explanation of able to penetrate and the reminder that the full form is to be able to is a good little grammar tip tucked in there too.
And clarifying how a dash is used to add extra non-essential information in the sentence is really helpful for understanding academic writing style.
Moving through the passage, the transcript then explains words like hurtling, which implies moving very fast, sometimes dangerously.
And promptly, which can mean both quickly and at a scheduled time.
It also covers triggered, meaning caused to start, and unthinkable, something shocking or hard to imagine, relating it to the implications for physics if time travel were possible.
And it even points out the British spelling learnt versus the American learned. Little details like that are good to know.
And understanding phrases like stemming from, meaning coming from, and reconsidered, meaning to think about it again in the context of the article, really aids comprehension.
The third part of the vocabulary breakdown focuses on phrases like at stake, meaning being considered, and nanoseconds, those incredibly tiny fractions of a second.
It also explains margin of error in scientific studies, and the phrase stands as proof.
The explanation of accounted for, emphasizing the correct preposition, and the phrasal verb ruled out, meaning no longer a possibility, are key to grasping the scientific process being described.
And mentioning the specific factors the scientists considered lunar effects, tidal bulges, and the Earth's crust provides important context, makes it more concrete.
Yeah. The fourth part looks at the transition word nevertheless, which signals a shift in thought.
And the meaning of skeptical, whether applied to a person or information.
It also touches on Einstein's relativity theory, the phrase pushed harder, meaning tried more intensely, and the idiom to no avail, meaning without success. Understanding these helps you follow the argument being presented.
Finally, the last part of the vocabulary from the reading passage explains more informal phrases like just around the corner, meaning happening soon.
And more formal words like prospect.
It also covers wrenched, meaning moved forcibly in the context of time travel moving closer to possibility, and the word hurdle for obstacle, like the speed of light being a hurdle.
The explanation of cleared, meaning eliminated, the phrase in theory, and the verb harnesses, meaning uses successfully, are important for understanding the conclusions being drawn.
And the phrase far beyond the scope of helps define the limits of the discussion, while left to future generations suggests where further exploration lies. This detailed vocabulary breakdown really helps unlock a potentially complex academic text.
It's like having a guide through the language itself. Okay, now let's switch gears and tune in to our listening depth dive, focusing on understanding fast English. We've got 5 short snippets for you.
All right, for the first clip, it's worth mentioning. The missing words are worth, going, and thou. Pay attention to how sounds change in fast speech. For example, we're going to often gets compressed to we're gonna.
Right.
And that little word of can really disappear, sometimes sounding like sumada.
Yeah, those reductions are key. Vocabulary-wise, to be worth plus gerund is a useful structure. To be frank means, honestly. Pretty is often used as an intensifier, and icky means unpleasant or gross.
In the second clip, I've got a level with you. The missing words are gotta, to, and a. Notice how got to often becomes gotta in casual speech. And the to before a vowel sound can sometimes just melt away. To level with someone is a great phrase that means to share a surprising or perhaps harsh truth directly. And again, gotta is just a quick way of saying have to.
The third clip, I think a lot of people will reflect, is missing lotta on you and wanna. A lot of very commonly becomes lotta in spoken English.
Listen for how sounds link together, like reflect on becoming almost one word. You know what is often used as a filler phrase or a way to introduce a thought?
Or just pause for a second.
Exactly. And wanna is, of course, the shortened form of want to.
In the fourth clip, watch this video and get the scoop. The missing words are scoop on, a little, and that'll. Listen for how scoop-on can run together like scoop-on-a.
Yeah, that linking is important. Little often gets reduced to little, and that will becomes that'll. The scoop is a great idiom for insider information or the latest news.
And crank up means to increase the intensity or volume, and believability is about how convincing something is.
Finally, in the fifth clip, all right, we've been planning. The missing words are all, right, do, and it. Notice how all right can be reduced in pronunciation, like right.
That have in weave can sometimes sound quite soft, almost like fur, and do it can also blend together.
Right, all right, can be used as an interjection or agreement, let's do it, is an expression of readiness to act, and it's go time is a more energetic way of saying it's time to start.
This listening section really highlights the shortcuts and sound changes that happen in fast, natural spoken English. It definitely throws a different light on what you might see written down.
It does. Okay, now let's move on to our spelling deep dive. The transcript uses a series of mini tests to highlight some key spelling rules.
All right. The first test, Jennifer, I really want to improve my writing, has errors in Jennifer, I, writing, and written.
This brings up a few important rules.
Yeah.
Proper nouns, like names, often just need to be memorized. The subject pronoun I is always capitalized.
Can't forget that one.
When adding ing to a verb that ends in a silent E, you usually drop the E, as in write, becoming writing. And then there's the rule about doubling the final consonant, usually when you have one vowel followed by one consonant at the end of a stressed syllable, but there are exceptions, like written.
The second test, I visited the chief briefly, has mistakes in visited chief briefly, weird, foreign, smell, stopped, jogging, and coming.
This helps us remember that classic rule, I, before E except after C, as seen in chief and briefly. But also its common exceptions like weird and foreign.
Always exceptions.
Always. It also reinforces the doubling rule in stopped and jogging and the silent E removal in coming. Notice that visited doesn't double the T because the stress isn't on the last syllable.
The third test, I cried when I applied, has errors in cried, applied, science, efficient, happier, and a lowercase I.
Here, we learn that when adding a suffix to a word ending in Y, the Y usually changes to an I, as in cry becoming cried and apply becoming applied.
But not when the suffix is ing, like in playing or enjoying.
Exactly. We also see those IE after C exceptions again with science and efficient, and a reminder that the pronoun I is always capitalized.
The fourth test, I can't make the party tonight, spots errors in can't make tonight, hope, see tomorrow, really, want, puppy, bite, bullet, happier, take, and off.
This one covers contractions like can't. It reminds us about dropping that silent E in words like make, hope, and bite.
It reinforces the doubling consonant rule in words like really, puppy, and bullet.
And it introduces the idea that adding a silent E to a short vowel sound can make the vowel sound long, like the difference between hop and hope or bit and bite. Affects pronunciation too.
The final spelling exercise is a dictation. Necessary, definitely, restaurant, accommodate, occasion, parallel, embarrass, February, separate, receive.
It's a good mix of common words that often trip people up. Pay special attention to receive as another example of the I before E except after C rule.
The key takeaway from this whole spelling section seems to be that even native speakers struggle sometimes. And a lot of it comes down to memorization and practice.
Absolutely. It's a great idea to learn the spelling of new vocabulary as you encounter it. A little bit of focused attention can make a big difference in your written communication.
Okay, for our final deep dive, let's talk about speaking. Specifically, how to train yourself to think and speak in English more naturally.
This final tip is all about integrating English into your daily routine. The idea is to consciously think in English during those everyday, almost automatic tasks you do.
Like taking a shower, putting on makeup, commuting to work or school, or doing household chores.
Exactly those. You don't even need to say anything out loud at first. It's about that internal monologue.
Right. So if you're brushing your teeth, you might just mentally name the objects toothpaste, toothbrush, or describe what you're doing. I'm squeezing the tube. I'm brushing my upper teeth.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be complicated grammar or fancy vocabulary at this stage. Start simple, just making those basic connections between your actions and the English words for them.
And as you get more comfortable,
well, you can try varying the verb tenses in your internal thoughts. I brushed my teeth. I will brush my teeth. You could even start asking yourself simple questions in English about what you're doing or what you see around you.
This kind of consistent mental practice really helps build that direct link between thought and English expression, doesn't it? It's like building a mental muscle for English.
Exactly.
So to wrap up this incredibly detailed deep dive, we've really covered a huge amount of ground today, haven't we?
We really have. From essential vocabulary and practical phrases for speaking,
to the nuts and bolts of English grammar with those core verbs, a rundown of irregular verbs.
Strategies for tackling academic reading, insights into understanding fast-spoken English,
and demystifying some key spelling rules, all inspired by the wealth of information in that J. Forrest English transcript, specifically with the IELTS in mind, but also for your overall English fluency.
Our fundamental goal, as always, has been to empower you, the learner, to feel more confident and knowledgeable as you continue your English language journey.
And on that note, think about this. What if you actively incorporated just one of the techniques we've explored today? Maybe starting to think in English during your morning routine, or making a conscious effort to learn a few new irregular verbs each week.
How might those small, consistent efforts compound over time and really open up new doors to mastering the English language? It's definitely something to consider.
We'd love to know what your biggest takeaway was from this deep dive, or if you have any lingering questions.
Yeah, your feedback helps us shape future discussions, so please do share your thoughts.
Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling when you're just faced with the sheer size of the English language?
Oh, definitely.
It feels like this huge ocean of words and phrases. And whether you're, actively learning or just trying to communicate better day to day, it can seem a bit daunting, right?
It's fascinating, really, because even native speakers, we still have moments where we go, I didn't realize you could say it that way, or we find some new little nuance. The language is always sort of shifting.
Exactly. And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive today. We've really looked into a great resource. It's a masterclass by J. Forrest English on YouTube.
Yeah, good stuff there.
And our mission basically is to pull out the most practical, everyday English insights from it. Things made just for you, the listener.
Think of it like a personalized toolkit. Something to really boost your confidence. We're not just, reading off vocabulary lists.
Right.
We're digging into the grammar behind things like prepositions, pointing out those common mistakes that often trip people up, and sharing pronunciation tips, things you can use right away.
Absolutely. And this masterclass, it covers a fantastic range. It helps demystify phrasal verbs, which can be tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Helps you paint better pictures with descriptive adjectives, get a solid grip on prepositions, and even tackles those sneaky silent letters, the ones that make English spelling so interesting.
Interesting is one word for it.
It's pretty comprehensive, but we're breaking it down. Manageable pieces for you, ready to explore.
Definitely. What I really like about this source is how practical it is. It's not just theory, it's language you can actually start using in conversations like today.
Okay, so let's dive into those phrasal verbs first. They're incredibly useful. Think about how often we talk about just simple, routine actions all the time.
The masterclass groups some really common ones together. We're talking stand up, sit down, pick up, put down.
Take out, put in, put on, take off. These feel like the absolute foundation, don't they?
They really are foundational. And the key, I think, with phrasal verbs is seeing how that little preposition changes the whole meaning of the main verb. It's like adding a specific flavor,
That's a great way to put it, a specific flavor. And the video really focuses on verbs with fill. That one's so versatile.
It really is.
You can fill up your water bottle or your car's gas tank or a vase.
Right.
But then you fill out a form.
Different meaning there, completing something.
Exactly. Or your closet can fill up with too many clothes. You can fill in missing information on that form or even fill in for someone at work.
It's fascinating how that one word, fill, takes on these slightly different shades depending on what follows. Often about reaching capacity or completion, like you said, making something whole.
Then we get into a really handy collection of other phrasal verbs. Things like pull off.
Like succeed at something difficult.
Yeah, we actually pulled it off. Or take off, meaning to leave. Put off, meaning postpone. And turn around, like improving a situation.
These are the kind of phrases native speakers use constantly, often without even thinking. Mastering these makes your English sound much more natural.
Totally. We also see some more colorful ones like blurt out.
Just saying something suddenly, right? Without thinking.
Yeah. And comb through, which suggests a really thorough search. That's different from skim through.
Right. Skim through is just a quick look, while comb through is meticulous. That precision is what phrasal verbs offer.
And gloss over when you deliberately avoid talking about something properly.
Skating over the details.
Then there are the call phrasal verbs. Call off means cancel.
Like a meeting or an event.
Right. And call someone out, that's more like confronting or criticizing them publicly.
A bit confrontational, yeah.
Whereas call out to someone is just shouting to get their attention.
Different intention entirely.
Plus, the conversational ones like jump in to join a discussion, and the slightly less polite one, butt in.
Yeah, interrupting. Not always welcome. Notice how many of those call ones relate to communication, but each with a different vibe.
Good point. Okay, let's shift gears. Describing common items. The masterclass gives some excellent contrasting adjectives, especially for food.
Oh, this is useful.
Think about chicken. Is it tender or is it tough?
Big difference.
Or bread. Fresh versus stale. A steak can be juicy or dry.
These aren't just words, they evoke a whole sensory experience, don't they?
Yeah.
Tender chicken, you can almost feel how easily it cuts.
Exactly. We also get flaky versus mushy for fish, crisp versus limp for vegetables. Nobody wants limp salad.
Definitely not.
Buttery versus oily for pastries, flavorful versus bland for, say, pizza, firm versus wilted lettuce, golden versus burnt fries.
Ouch, burnt fries.
And hearty versus watery soup. It's like upgrading your internal menu descriptions.
And seeing them in pairs like that really helps cement the meaning, you know? You understand tender better when you contrast it with tough.
Good point. Now, the video also throws in this huge array of common nouns, almost like a linguistic scavenger hunt.
Huh, I like that.
We've got animals like alligator and crocodile. They look similar, but they are different.
They are indeed.
Yeah.
And toad and frog.
Right. And pairs you might mix up in the kitchen, like yam and sweet potato. Are they the same? Sometimes debated.
Or butter and margarine. Definitely different. This kind of grouping, even if it seems random, forces your brain to make connections and spot differences.
Yeah, it's clever. We get fruits, cherries and cranberries, sea creatures, Shrimp and prawn, another tricky pair.
Often used interchangeably, but technically distinct.
Big cats. Cheetahs and leopard.
Yeah.
Vegetables. Cucumber and zucchini. Geography terms. Shore and beach.
Knowing the specific term avoids any confusion. Makes communication clear.
Totally. Toiletries, shampoo and conditioner, kitchen gadgets, blender and food processor.
Similar functions, but different tools.
The list keeps going. Guitar and banjo, lipstick and chapstick, even Pegasus and unicorn.
Covering all bases there.
Drinks, latte and cappuccino, cooking gear, roasting pan and baking sheet, insects, moths and butterfly, dairy, sour cream and yogurt, more fruit, peach and nectarine, tech, monitor and screen, clothes, cardigan and sweater, spices, ginger and turmeric, flying things, wasp and bee.
Important distinction there.
Marine mammals, seal and sea lion, South American animals, llama and alpaca, and those little critters, chipmunk and squirrel. Quite the collection.
It really shows the sheer breadth of English vocabulary, even for everyday things. So many specific words.
Then we move on to common nouns for places and objects around town, like a revolving door, a mural on a wall, a parking meter.
Things you see every day.
A semi-truck, a gate, a statue, a patio, a crosswalk, a fence, a parking lot.
Essential for navigation and description.
An ATV, a foosball table, maybe not every day. A speed bump, an aisle in a store, a carving, a mask.
More specific items now.
A coffee roaster, a saddle, a shark. Okay, hopefully not every day. Play structure in a park, a mailbox, a pylon or cone, a bike lane, a sidewalk, a bike rack, and just the basic street.
This is the vocabulary that helps us, navigate the physical world around us. Naming things accurately is key.
Okay, so we've got some basics for describing things. Now let's look at expanding beyond those simple adjectives. The Masterclass offers useful synonyms. Instead of always saying small,
You could say.
tiny, compact, modest, miniature, mini, or petite.
And each one has a slightly different feel, doesn't it? Tiny might imply fragility. Compact suggests efficiency.
Exactly. And for big, we get huge, enormous, gigantic, massive, colossal, really amps up the scale.
Right. Colossal feels, colossal. Immense. Choosing the right synonym adds impact.
The video also shows alternative ways to say common things. Safe to eat becomes edible.
More concise.
Can be done is feasible. Can be walked is walkable. Can be trusted is credible. Can be believed is plausible. Can be accepted is acceptable.
These more sophisticated words often sound more formal or precise. Useful in certain contexts, like work or writing.
We also have can be managed becoming manageable. Can be shaped is malleable. Can be burned is combustible. Can be solved is solvable.
Useful suffixes there. Able and able.
Then some important opposites. Persuade and dissuade. Trust and mistrust. Visible, invisible. Patient, impatient.
Knowing antonyms is a great way to build vocabulary. Learn one, get its opposite, often for free.
Connect, disconnect. Cover, uncover. Appear, disappear. Tidy, untidy. Judge, misjudge. Obey, disobey.
Helps you express contrasting ideas clearly.
And for those of you working on essays or more formal writing,
Yes, academic vocabulary.
the Masterclass suggests stronger verbs. Instead of just show, try demonstrate. Instead of important, maybe significant.
Adds more weight.
Use becomes utilize. Many becomes numerous. Find becomes discover. Good becomes beneficial. Bad becomes detrimental.
These choices elevate the tone, make arguments feel more substantial, maybe more objective.
The list goes on. Big can also become significant. Small could be negligible. Easy might be straightforward. Hard could be strenuous.
Depends on the context, of course.
Get becomes obtain. Keep becomes retain. Tell becomes inform. Say could be articulate. And ask becomes inquire.
It's all about being intentional with word choice. Selecting the verb that really captures the nuance you want.
Now let's try and tackle those sometimes perplexing prepositions.
Always a fun topic.
The video clarifies some common uses. Like for public transport, you're on the subway,
Right, inside the vehicle.
but you wait at or in the subway station. What's the difference there, really?
Generally, on is for being inside or on the surface of the transport. At often indicates a specific point or location, like at the entrance. In suggests being within an enclosed space in the station building itself.
That makes sense. Okay. Similarly, you sit on a bench.
On the surface.
For big public spaces like Central Park, you can be at or in Central Park. But for a specific landmark like Rockefeller Plaza, it's usually at.
Yeah, at often points to a more specific recognized location or landmark. In can feel more like being surrounded by the larger area, like in the park among the trees.
Got it. Okay, what about different transport modes and locations? It's on a scooter,
Riding on it.
on a patio,
In an elevator.
enclosed space, on the bridge, on a walkway. You travel in a car.
Another enclosed space.
But on a train, you arrive at the train station, sail on a boat, relax at or on the beach, put something at or on the counter, decorations go on the wall, solar panels on the roof.
You see the patterns, right?
Yeah.
On for surfaces and some transport. In for enclosed spaces. At for specific points.
Yeah, it starts to click. The video also covers places. Get coffee in a bakery or cafe. Enjoy nature at a park. Rest sitting on a bench. Wait in a parking lot or elevator. Dine on a patio. Shower in or on the shower. That's interesting. Both seem possible. Maybe it depends if it's a cubicle or a bath shower combo.
Could be, or just common variations. Sleep in or on the bed again, both heard.
Hide under the table. Relax behind the couch. Sit on the chair. Put something between the plants. Greet someone at the front door. Wait at the bus stop. Books on the shelf.
Standard locations.
Live on the coast. Trips in the countryside. Meet at the corner of the street or at the park entrance. Kids play on the swings. Someone knocks at the door.
Specific points again.
A picture might be in the wall if it's recessed or on the wall if hanging. Meetings in the conference room. Leaves on the forest floor. Keys on the table or in the kitchen. Art on the wall.
It really shows how context drives the choice. It's all about the spatial relationship.
And time prepositions. Events happen on Saturday
Specific day.
at 5 p.m.
Precise time.
in 1990.
Year. A longer period.
On weekends, in the evening, at noon.
Yeah.
And if you take a break, you're on vacation in July.
Yeah. On for days, dates, at for times, in for months, years, parts of the day. It's a good general guide.
Finally, those ball and cup examples, they really clarify in, on, in front of, behind, beside, far from, and near.
Visuals like that are super helpful for getting those basic spatial relationships down. Crucial for directions.
Okay, now let's delve into some tricky noun usage areas, specifically when you generally don't add a plural as, and when you typically don't use a or n.
Uncountable nouns territory.
Right. The video lists nouns that usually skip the plurals. Thanks, advice, work, clothes, clothing, things. Things is plural. Stuff, bags also can be plural. Luggage, weights can be plural. Mats can be plural. Equipment, potatoes plural. Rice, songs, most, music, animals plural. Nature, vitamins plural. Sleep, fights, cars plural. Traffic, muffins plural. And bread.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, that list needs a bit of clarification, I think.
Several of those definitely do take a plural as in normal use. Bags, weights, potatoes, songs, animals, vitamins, fights, cars, muffins.
Exactly. I suspect the intention behind listing them like this in the source might be to highlight them as words that can sometimes function as uncountable or are often used in a general uncountable sense in certain contexts. Like maybe we need equipment rather than equipments, or I like music, not musics.
Okay, that makes more sense. So it's not saying they never take an S, but maybe highlighting common uncountable uses or contexts where learners might mistakenly add one, like advice. We say pieces of advice, not advices.
Precisely. It's about those common patterns and pitfalls. Let's look at the at-in list.
Right. Nouns generally not taking a or an dollar, but you can say a dollar. Money, message, a message, information, minute, time, suggestion, advice, assignment, work, a job, employment, meal, food, help, break, sleep, ring, jewelry, choice, progress, compliment, and compliment, praise, song, music, reason, a reason, motivation, clue, evidence, hug, and comfort. Same issue here.
Same issue, exactly. Many of those absolutely can and do take a or an. A dollar, a message, a minute, a suggestion, an assignment, a job, a meal, a hand meaning help, a break, a ring, a choice, a compliment, a song, a reason, a clue, a hug.
So again, the list is likely focusing on the core uncountable nouns like money, information, advice, work, employment, food, help, sleep, jewelry, progress, praise, music, motivation, evidence, comfort. These are the ones where you wouldn't typically say an information or a progress.
That seems the most logical interpretation. It's highlighting the core uncountables that learners need to be careful with, even if some potentially countable nouns got mixed in the source's examples.
Okay, that clears it up a bit. The next part makes perfect sense, though. Correct alternatives for common mistakes. A bread should be a loaf of bread.
Or a slice or a piece.
An advice becomes a piece of advice. A sand becomes a grain of sand. A soap is a bar of soap. A paper, meaning writing paper, is a sheet of paper. A lettuce is a head of lettuce.
These perfectly show how we use quantifiers, loaf of, piece of, grain of, bar of, sheet of, head of, to talk about specific units of uncountable nouns. Makes them countable, in a way.
Next up, the classic do versus make confusion.
Always a favorite.
The masterclass lists common pairings. You make your bed, make a decision, make a cup of coffee, you do someone a favor. Wait, isn't it usually make someone a favor? Or is do also common?
Do someone a favor is definitely the standard collocation. Make a favor isn't standard English.
Ah, okay, good clarification. Then make a phone call, make an appointment, make a cake. What's the general rule here if one even exists?
Well, there's no single perfect rule, unfortunately. But often, make relates to creating, constructing, or producing something tangible or a result, like a cake, a decision, a call. Do is often for actions, tasks, activities, or work. But honestly, so much of it is just memorizing the common pairings.
Yeah, that feels right. On the do side, the video lists do the dishes, do your homework, do research.
Standard tasks and activities.
And the video notes sometimes both can be used. Inviting examples, it really shows how flexible or maybe just inconsistent English can be sometimes.
Ah, indeed. There are gray areas where the choice might subtly change the meaning, or sometimes either just works.
Now let's clarify. Made of, made out of, made with, and made from. This is subtle but useful.
Very useful distinction.
The video explains. Made of wood means the wood is still clearly wood.
Material unchanged, basically.
Made out of old clothes implies the original form is gone. They've been transformed into something new.
Right, the original items are repurposed, changed significantly.
Made with chicken and vegetables just lists ingredients.
Simple components.
And made from tomatoes suggests the tomatoes were transformed, maybe into sauce or ketchup. The original ingredient isn't obvious anymore.
Exactly. Key difference is often that transformation. Made of glass, made of gold, made of bricks. You still see the glass. Gold bricks. Made of plastic bottle. Maybe it's a bird feeder now. The bottle shape is altered.
That really helps distinguish them. Okay, while versus during.
Another common point of confusion.
You'd listen to music while cooking dinner? Two actions happening together?
Right. While often connects simultaneous actions, usually with a clause following.
But you fell asleep during the movie, followed by the noun phrase, the movie.
Exactly. During specifies the time period within which something happened, followed by a noun or noun phrase.
The package arrived while I was working. Again, simultaneous actions. Someone lived in Texas for 3 years. Okay, that one still feels like it's about duration with for, not while during.
Agreed. That example seems misplaced in the source's comparison of while and during. It uses for to state duration.
Let's ignore that one then. Lights went out for 2 hours, another for duration. Kids were scared during the thunderstorm.
During plus noun phrase, they thunderstorm. Correct.
We met them during our trip, called me while I was in a meeting.
Perfect examples. While plus clause, the big plus noun phrase. That's the main pattern.
Now for a really important bit, avoiding common grammar mistakes. The big one. Between you and I.
Oh, yes. The classic overcorrection.
It should be between you and me. Because between is a preposition and you need the object pronoun me after it.
Exactly. People here don't say me and Sarah went, so they think I is always right, but not after prepositions or as the object of a verb.
Right. The video also hits subject pronouns in lists. Joe, Sue, and I went, because I is part of the subject. And reflexive pronouns, saying Sarah and me, is usually correct as an object, not Sarah, myself, unless myself is actually reflecting back on the subject.
Correct. Myself is often misused for me or I. Like, please contact Sarah or self. Usually should be Sarah or me.
Good example. The video reinforces object pronouns after prepositions, between you and me, and in comparisons with than, better at tennis than me, although technically than I can also be correct in formal contexts, but than me is very common in speech.
Yes, than me is widely accepted, especially conversationally. It functions like a preposition there for many speakers.
And teaching myself uses the reflexive pronoun correctly.
Perfect use. The action reflects back on the subject.
Prepositions of place again, between you and me. There's a prompt about the team and, probably meant to reinforce subject pronouns like the team and I, or object pronouns between the team and me.
Likely, yeah. Testing that subject-to-object distinction.
And the dreaded lie versus lay is hinted at. Promised he wouldn't lie, but he decided to. That verb pair causes so much trouble.
It really does. Remember, lie down doesn't take an object. Lay something down does. Chickens lay eggs. People lie down.
Good way to remember it. Other errors mentioned. Proactive and take initiative. A bit redundant, right?
Yeah, being proactive means taking initiative.
Yeah.
Just proactive or took initiative is usually better.
Began to gain momentum is better than just began to momentum.
Correct. Momentum is a noun. You need the verb gain.
Using workload correctly, having a discussion about something usually the right preposition, and the phrase grew weary of.
All good examples of standard correct usage.
We also see, especially ballet, as a natural phrase, using stationary with an E for writing materials, not stationary, standing still.
Common spelling confusion there.
The principal wants to see you. Principal, head of school, not principal, a rule. Another spelling trap.
Definitely.
Deeply affected her shows correct adverb use. Deeply modifies affected. And met several scientists at the event is just given as standard correct phrasing.
These are all those little polishing points that make English sound more accurate.
And finally, a big list of common preposition errors to fix. It's married, to, depend on, interested in.
Got to memorize those pairings.
Prefer coffee, tot. Afraid of, f. Responsible, for. Capable of doing.
All fixed phrases.
Waiting, at or nn, the bus stop. Usually at for the specific point, maybe in if it's a shelter.
Good point. At is more common for the location point, in if you emphasize being inside the structure. Context matters.
Disappointed with, or sometimes by or in. Good AT playing, angry AT or with his brother both seem possible, maybe slightly different feelings.
Yes. Both angry at and angry with are used often interchangeably, though some feel with is more for people.
Tired of walking, worried about, excited about, belongs to, famous for, few. Prepositions are hard work.
They really are. Lots of memorization and feeling for the right one is needed. Paying attention to these common ones helps a lot.
Okay, the video then has a useful section checking English levels, A1 to C2, using example sentences.
The CEFR levels.
A1, I have a cat. Simple statement. A2, she goes to the store every day. Present simple. Frequency. B1, they didn't go to the party last night. Past simple negative. B2, he suggested going. Verb patterns, gerunds. C1, despite the heavy traffic, we arrived on time. Complex sentence, connectors. C2, had I known about the meeting, I would have attended. Advanced grammar, inversion, conditionals.
It's a really neat way to see the progression in complexity from basic existence and routine through past tenses, verb patterns, linking ideas to hypothetical and complex structures. Gives you a good benchmark.
Last but definitely not least, silent letters, the bane of English spelling.
Oh, indeed.
The video lists words with silent B like thumb, doubt, silent G, sign, gnome, silent H, honor, honest.
Ghost letters.
Silent K, knife, not. Silent L, calm, palm, walk. Silent P, psychologist, receipt.
The P in receipt gets people.
Silent S, island, aisle. Silent W, wrap, wrist, answer. Silent T, listen, asthma, mortgage. Why do we even have these?
Often they're historical leftovers. Words used to be pronounced differently centuries ago, and the spelling stuck even when the sound changed. It's like a little window into the language's past.
Fascinating, yet frustrating. And finally, pronunciation practice, again by level. A1, friend, work, walk, clothes, the adjective, should, water.
Core words, but with tricky sounds like the R in work. Silent L in walk should. Vowel sounds.
A2, answer, that's silent Ebby. Island S, enough, GF is FL again. Advice, as sound versus C. Cereal.
More silent letters, tricky vowels, consonant sounds.
B1, nauseous, temperature, syllables, ILS, scissors, endly C sound. Silent C, rural, that RLS, key.
Getting more complex. Stress, multiple tricky sounds together.
B2, debris, silent S at the end. Hyperbole, stress. Mischievous, watch the syllables pronunciation. Entrepreneur, French origin. Drought, silent G, mortgage.
Silent T. Loan words, unusual spelling, stress patterns.
C1, acquaintance, procrastinate, inevitable, ambiguity, eccentric, conscientious.
Longer words, complex vowel, and consonant clusters. Stress.
And C2, acquiesce, ubiquitous, ephemeral, advantageous, conundrum, quintessential.
Really advanced vocabulary, often with Latin Greek roots, demanding precise pronunciation. Great list for practice.
Wow. Okay, that was a really deep dive. We covered so much ground.
We really do.
From those everyday phrasal verbs and more vivid descriptive words, to getting into the nitty-gritty of prepositions.
Tackling those common grammar pitfalls.
Right. And essential pronunciation tips, including navigating those baffling silent letters.
And what's valuable, I think, is seeing how it all connects. Vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, they all work together for clear communication. It's not just about knowing lists of words.
Absolutely. It's about understanding how they function in the system. And our goal today was really to pull out the most useful bits from that masterclass. Things to give your everyday English a boost, and maybe more importantly, build your confidence.
Definitely. By focusing on these fundamental areas, you can make real progress in expressing yourself and understanding others, whether you're learning or just polishing your skills.
So here's a final thought for you to take away. Start really listening, actively paying attention to these words, these phrases, these grammar points when you encounter English day to day.
In podcasts, articles, conversations.
And ask yourself, which area surprised you most today? Or which one feels like the biggest challenge for you right now? That could be a really good focus point for your own continued learning journey.